In 1962, when I started at the University of Iowa, race prejudice was so bad that black football and basketball players had to live with black families in town because they weren't allowed to live in the university's dorm. Flash forward to the fall of 1970, and the description of my first teaching job at Central Iowa Community College was to improve the reading skills of talented but academically underprepared black athletes. And because I jocked out at Iowa, the administration trusted me not to say anything about their watered-down academic standards. So when Coach Matthews introduces me to our new freshman class of 7 black athletes, I'm not sure if the last one's going to say hello or twist my head off, because his eyes are looking right through me. That afternoon in the locker room, everyone tries not to stare at the diagonal keloid scar across Keyshawn Knight's back. He was in cold storage, Coach Matthews says, a juvenile detention center in East St. Louis for the toughest of the tough. Knight did a year involuntary manslaughter because he beat up his mother's boyfriend when he hit her, and the guy died of a heart attack on the way to the hospital. Judge gave him a year in storage because of priors. Big anger issues, this one, so he's on a short leash. But hey, at 6'2", 225, and 4.5 speed, gotta see if we can calm him down enough to get him through. In our first scrimmage, his anger issues have our cold storage linebacker playing lights out. He loves to hit and keep on hitting even after the whistle. In fact, his teammates start calling him lights out after the first game. And he's controlling his anger, more or less, too, until the Ottumwa game, when he tears the helmet off a big tackle and starts bashing him over the head with it. Guy tried to bite me in the pile, he's yelling. Coach Matthews suspends him for the first half of the next game and says that's the last warning Keyshawn Knight's gonna get. After practice and supper, I pile our black athletes into a school van and head to campus for their reading class. A football booster's built a dormitory on the second floor of his horse barn, more than 3 miles out of town and 3 miles out of harm's way. Coach Matthews has set up a private library room so I can give sight word vocabulary tests and tutor players hidden from the local students. The results of their word recognition test are 4th grade level average. No way in hell they'll be able to read their world history and psych texts. They'll still pass, barely, so they can start in D1 university football programs for 2 years. Apparently, Keyshawn has read more than the others because he doesn't start missing sight words until mid-7th grade level. I notice his speaking vocabulary is pretty good when he feels like talking. It's obvious to me now that our street kids learn by ear, so I decide to try something. Have you ever seen this word before, I ask, pointing toward the word predicament in the 12th grade reading list. Keyshawn shakes his head. Any chance you can use the word predicament for me in a sentence? Sure. If I just didn't get in so many fights, I wouldn't be in this predicament. How'd you learn that word? Listening to white people talk. Ever read sports magazines? Sure, football stuff. For the next several evenings, I read Sports Illustrated football pieces into library tape recorders and then have the players listen, touching each word as they hear it. And when they don't recognize one, they write it down and we use it later in short writing assignments. Some of their stories about the guns and the knives and about drug-addicted mothers and the abject poverty of their mean street neighborhoods would break your heart. We have a small and extremely fast running back that year, a shy kid who smells like marijuana a lot. At an improbable 170 pounds, he goes on to star for 8 seasons with the Denver Broncos in the NFL. Years later, I see him on TV passing through the Denver airport, confident, well-spoken, talking about a tutoring program for black high school athletes that he's started, and my heart soars because he's passing it forward. But back to lights out. One evening in November, he leaves the reading room early and doesn't come back until we're getting into the dorm van. An elbow is sticking out of his torn shirt. I hesitate to ask, Key, but what happened to your shirt? Went into town to get me some Robitussin because the alcohol helps me to sleep. But outside the drugstore, there's some town guys on the corner, and the biggest one says I should get my ass back onto campus because they don't like football monkeys in town. Jesus, Key, tell me he's not dead now. Not quite, but I hit that motherfucker so hard with a forearm, he bounced off the drugstore wall. And then I start after his posse, and one of them yells that I just knocked out the sheriff's son cold. Big red-headed kid? Yep. Well, your predicament just got death-defying around here if the sheriff gets his hands on you. Go into the reading room and keep the door shut while I call Coach Matthews. 20 minutes later, our lights-out talented linebacker bundled into the back seat and we're headed south toward East St. Louis. Duck down till we get to 169, Coach Matthews says. I don't duck, Lights Out snaps, sitting up straighter. God damn it, Knight, busting up that sheriff's kid could get our football program thrown off campus. What'd you expect, Coach? Football monkeys? Lucky he's alive. I told you this was a racist little farm town and you might have to put up with some race shit. Some shit so you'd get a chance to play on Sundays, get more education, and even make enough money to buy your mom a new house. And what kind of a future you got now? Where do you want us to send your clothes? He doesn't seem concerned with this, and turning his head, he stares out the window at the lights of a small Iowa farm town and the chances to make something of himself fading to black behind the car.